What up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Hour with Paul. Again, my name is Paul Abernathy. This glorious Tuesday morning, July 8th, 2025. How the year is literally rushing by. I mean, it literally is half the year's over with already. I just remember celebrating it in the new house, moving here to Virginia. It was like, hey, your first New Year's Eve and all this kind of stuff. But man, time does not stand still for anybody. So, hopefully everybody out there is doing great. Got your week started. Again, we're on Tuesday, so Monday, uneventful. Got everything done, made connections you need to make, all that good stuff. And now you're moving on to Tuesday. And hopefully you got big things planned today. Or maybe just taking a day off, taking an easy day. That's okay too. Look at the shakes. This whole studio table shakes. Anyway, I'll have to fix that. Anyway, thank you folks for joining me. Welcome to Coffee Hour. As always, let me know in the comments who you are, where you're from. That way I can give you a shout out, let you know we appreciate you. Also, if you're a fast track student, let us know how you're doing in the program. And please don't forget that we have a feature called Fast Tracks Interact, where you can ask questions inside of your course. You don't have to send emails. You don't have to go to it. You can do them right in your course. It's easy and simple. Just do me a favor. Be very descriptive in your question. Do not ask me to go read something in the course because I'm not going to do it. Okay? I need you to be very descriptive. If you have a question, cut and paste the question and ask me to help answer it. Those type of things, because I don't have the time to go back into the course and read something. Present to me what your question is. And you can do that in the program itself. Okay. So hopefully you check that out. Okay. All right. Well, today we're going to look at some questions, analyze some stuff. Hopefully this will be old hat for you. But I want participation if you can. If you're driving, I get it. You don't have to tell me I'm driving. I can't. I get it. But I want participation if possible. Let me know what your thoughts are, your answers, all that type of stuff, and we'll go look it up in the code book. We will do our best today to try not to use the index because, again, every now and then, again, for exam, preparing for an exams, I want you to get used to the index. Obviously, it's going to help you, especially if you learn how to search it. Bold scanning is an important way to do this, but today we're just going to be looking at code questions, and hopefully we have a conversation over them, and it helps you find these things. And maybe, just maybe, if you have an exam question, that these questions that we're going to go over today may help you. They also are out of the Fast Tracks program, so they may look very familiar to many of you, and that's okay too. So just let me know your answers, post them in the comments. We are streaming on Facebook, 2 channels, but y'all are probably only familiar with one, and that's going to be Master the NEC. The other one's a private channel. And then, of course, LinkedIn. We have my name on LinkedIn. And then, of course, we have the Electrical Code Academy on LinkedIn. And then on YouTube, we have 2 channels, Coffee Hour with Paul. I encourage you to subscribe to that, as well as Master the NEC as well. And, of course, you can watch on our platforms over on fasttracksystem.com as well as fasttrackstube.com. You can actually watch these shows there as well, and of course catch the replays as well. Now, before I get started and looking at some comments, today we're going to be looking at some code questions that come out of our Fast Tracks program. It's again we're not trying to trick anybody, not trying to make them overcomplicated. They're just good code questions to help you think and be familiar with navigating through the code. Now, the one thing about our program that if you're not familiar with our program is typically when you get to the competency reviews, when you get to the competency reviews, they are based on the information that you just worked on. So that's a little tip for those that are in our program. If you're in Unit 8, for example, it's going to be questions that are germane to what you learned in Unit 8. All right. And so it might not be exactly what you learned, okay, because that would be too easy. It's the process that you learn, right? And that's the evolution of making somebody better with the code, is to constantly keep testing them. So we're not going to ask you specifically a question. I mean, a lot of people do that. And a lot of people say, Paul, your questions are very close to what you see on the exam. That is true because the questions aren't all written by me. They're written by people that help write exam questions for exams. So logically, they're going to be very close. Same with our database of questions. Obviously going to be very close to the kind of questions you're going to get on an exam. So keep those kind of things in mind when you're looking at these questions that it could be something that you'd see on an exam, or they're just something you might run into in the field. So anyway, let's go on and let's do some shout outs real quickly. Let's get some names out there and then we'll get into today's lesson. What's up, Brandon? Glad to have you here, my friend, down in Houston. What is up, Manny? Code Nerd in the house. Thank you for joining us, Manny. Battles Electric, Jonathan, welcome. Alabama, Tennessee state line. Glad to have you here, my friend. It's also a Fast Track's family member as well. What's up, Marlon? Glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us. What's up, Cray Cray? Cray Cray in the Tennessee, Nashville area. Thanks for being with us. Let's see here. What else we got? Manny Sanchez. Manny's jumping on multiple platforms. There he is over there wearing his green Code Nerd hoodie. Okay. Let's see here. Santana's in the house. Santana, glad to have you here. Appreciate you. Paul, down in Houston. Not working on a sign today, Paul. Not up in a lift or anything today. Glad to have you here. There's our CMECP. Sorry, Tom, I'm slow on getting the emails out for that. It's been a bit of a madhouse here, trying to deal with some family issues with my wife and all. So, but we'll get you all squared away, I promise you. What's up, MM? Or M's in the house. What's up, Irvin? Glad to have you here. Good morning. Welcome to the stream. Jonathan says, Paul, has anyone ever told you you're the man? No, they've called me other things. Okay, but appreciate it. What's up, Red Dog?
Woo, 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 woo.
Big dog. The jig did come, Red Dog. So I'm busy the rest of this week. We'll holler out at you next week about seeing what we can do for you on your license plates. I think it's with you too, Manny, I think, for that. Let's see. What's up, Crypto's in the house. What's up? Glad to have you here, as always. Frank's in the house. They're great. Glad to have you here, Frank. Angel is in the house. Angel's over on YouTube watching. Probably over on Master the NEC over on YouTube. Okay. I am doing good today, my friend. I cannot complain. I woke up. That's a good start. What's up, Greg? Glad to have you here. Is watching over on Fast Track's Tube. All right. What's up? Chark, is that the name? Chark, you're new here. Welcome to the stream, Chark. We talk all things the National Electrical Code, all things electrical. Got questions, feel free to ask. If I know the answer, I'll try to answer for you. If not, I'll defer you over to paulabernathy.com, which is our portal where people can ask more in-depth, deep questions. And we usually would want a lot of extra detail, right? Because again, deep questions desire deep detail. So that type of thing. Good morning, Christopher, glad to have you here. Uncle P, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Jonathan likes that hoodie. Said that is pimp. Yeah, he's got the. I don't think it's lime green. It's just, but it is a bright green. And Code Nerd. How many of you out there got Code Nerd wear? Very limited. What's up, Angel from Colorado? Glad to have you here. I'm going to make a trip out to Colorado probably the next 6 to 8 months maybe. Coming out there. So coming out there to go to Dragon Man's. It's a bucket list thing for me. Okay. What is the XP about? Come on, what is XP about? I don't know what you mean about XP. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry. Don't know what that means. Only good vibes here. Welcome. Keith, good morning. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Angel Louise. Good morning. I am doing great. Can't complain. Glad to have you here. Hashtag win. Everybody's throwing up that hashtag win. What's up, David A? Thanks for joining me this morning here on Coffee Hour. All right. Okay. So keep going, let you know who you are, where you're from. Don't be shy. If you've never spoke up before, if you have come and you're watching the background, look, this is a no hater zone. So look, even if you're a hater out there, we still appreciate you coming. You can always say what's up, the hey in the comments. Again, we're just trying to get our day started. Got a little coffee, talking a little code, talking a little electrical. So if you got any questions or stories or anything you want to ask, please feel free to put in there. Let's see. YouTube has EXP for commenting. And I have no idea. I have no idea what anything on the YouTube is all about. I don't know anything about their little features. They have the gifting thing where you can donate and all that. I don't know. I don't follow those things, so I have no idea what that stuff is. So let's see. About a week or so. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Okay, I don't even know what the features are over there on the YouTube channel. To be honest with you, I don't follow it. So anyway, we're going to do some competency type questions today. Just kind of stuff to make you think. We'll have a discussion. Feel free to ask questions about any of these. I do sit on code making panel 5 as well as 17. Nothing in today is going to be yeah, Cray. I don't know what those features are. If you find out what they are, let me know. I don't even know what those features are. The XPs, and I didn't even know there was anything. I just stream to it. I don't even go. I will say I do watch YouTube for a lot of how-to stuff, but I don't really go there that often. That type of thing. And I just figured out how to keep the camera from, the camera that I use is mounted on top of the compute on the monitors, right? I was a really high-end face cam pro, but I just realized that I probably should have its own separate mount. I don't know why I didn't just think of that. I probably should have its own separate mount for it. So I will be getting a separate mount for that camera because that bouncing shit drives me crazy. Because my desk doesn't bounce. I have one of those desks, Veridesk type of things or whatever. They go up and down. I very rarely stand, as you can tell. But it does go up and down. I got rid of the drawers because moving from Texas to Virginia, I wanted to get rid of the clutter. It seems like everything I gravitated to ended up in the drawers, and then you never look in your drawers again, and they just get filled up with crap. So when I moved from Texas to Virginia, I got rid of everything. I mean, I just threw all kinds of stuff. Now, I can't find anything now, but I threw everything away. Okay? Oh, by the way, real quick, TradeHog is sponsoring the show. TradeHog is your AI tool for trades. So if you're in the field and you want to get quick answers, code references, all that kind of stuff quickly for reports, or to be able to let your customer know what's going on or what the code references are. If you're an inspector, home inspector, municipal inspector, plumber, mechanical, building, whatever, TradeHog can be beneficial to you, and it's constantly learning and we're constantly evolving it. In fact, it just had an update yesterday. So it's really a great resource. And it's about like ChatGPT. The only difference, this is tailored to the codes and trades and things like that. And it's cheaper than ChatGPT. If you get the basic plan or you get the light and you pay annual, it's actually cheaper than ChatGPT, that type of thing. Not the premium, but the regular basic or the light, which basically gives you that type of thing. Okay. And you can sample it for free over on tradehog.net or .com, whatever you want to go to. They all work. All right, Adam, what's up? Glad to have you here, Adam. Catching up. Charles Bailey, what's up? Hashtag win. Adrian, good morning. Glad to have you here. Welcome out in Houston. We have a lot of viewers from Texas. I don't know if it's because I was in Texas. Also, I should say prayers go out to everybody in Kerrville and everybody that was in the area that was flooded. And the prayers go out to the families of people that were lost. Again, this is never a political time. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. These are beautiful lives that are lost. These are families that are devastated, and we need to put all that crap aside and realize that it's nobody's fault. It's act of God. There was just happened at 4 a.m. in the morning. These little children were asleep. People were. I mean, what happens when you're asleep at night? I have no idea what the heck's going on. When I'm out, I'm out. So again, things happen so quickly. I think it rose 26 feet in like 40 minutes or something. It was just unfathomable what happened. And so again, prayers go out to entire families. Again, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. The loss of life is just devastating, especially when you think about losing a child or loved ones, family members. Some whole families were wiped away. It's just terrible. Real quick before we get into it, also remind you that Fast Tracks Tube is running. The subscription's $99 a year. Unless you have the Fast Tracks Enhanced, then you get the year included. But check it out. That's our video delivery platform. Okay, so please feel free to check that out. All right, let's look at some code questions today. And again, you can elaborate in the comments, and it may be hard to see depending on what platform you're watching, whether you're watching on your phone. It may be hard to see. So, and I'll also read the question out. And again, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts, what you think the answers are. And think about how you answer a question. Because if you just throw it up there and you don't know, you're just throwing crap at the wind. It's not going to help you. I know if you're driving, you can't look it up in your code book. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that, and it's a delicate balance of learning. So I'll try to walk you through these, but some of these may be very familiar with you. But again, it should be basic stuff that you remember when you're going through a course, okay? All right, first question we have, it says, it shall be permissible to apply a demand factor of blank percent to the nameplate rating load of blank or more appliances fastened in place, rated a 4th horsepower or greater, okay, or 500 watts or greater, other than electric cooking equipment, which has its own demand factor that applies, and that would be in 220.55, right? Other than clothes dryers, which also has its own demand factors that can apply, and that would be 220.54, right? Space heating requirements has its own rules that would be applied, and I can't remember what those are in 220. Maybe like 52 or 50, something like that. I can't remember exactly what that is. I probably should go look. I don't remember exactly. Dude, I'm not that smart. You know, people say, Paul, you know everything. Yeah, right, whatever. It's 51, 220.51. I was close. And let's see, air conditioning load equipment, and again, electric vehicle charging, which is 625. But we also have a special in 2023. In that little list that we have, it just says that you're not going to include electric vehicle supply equipment, which does tell us that it is an appliance, by the way. But it just says you can't add it to the list when you're trying to apply some demand factors, okay? So David's got some answers out there. David, let's highlight David up here. David says it's 75, and it says 4, all right? And I'm not sure what the 1500 is, but I know it's he's got 75 and he's got 4, all right? And unless David's trying to answer questions ahead of time, we're on number 1 question, David. All right. So answers up here is like, okay, where do I get this answer? Well, the first thing that I would do if I'm looking at this is that I know it's talking about blank or more appliances. So it's dealing with appliances. However, keep in mind that when you're in our program, like the Fast Tracks program, if you're in a unit that has a competency review, we're talking about everything that is in that unit that led up to this, okay? Everything that would be, for example, if this was Unit 8, okay, which it is, it talked about all these things during the unit, right? So that is how we do it. This is how the Fast Tracks program does it for those that aren't familiar with it. And you'll have to indulge me here a little bit because I have to explain stuff. Sometimes people are new. We give you questions that are generally covered in the unit, but not every question because we want to make you think. If we just regurgitated it, then you're not going to think. And so when you get these competency review questions, they're trying to make you at least think and hammer some stuff home. So this is a good one because this hammers home that you know that we're talking about the appliances, but we're talking about demand factors. We're talking about loads. So you know you're not up in 422, right? Because we're not talking about the appliance itself. We're talking about a calculation. We're talking about getting a demand factor. It means it's a load calculation. So that should key off right away that's in Article 220 because that's the article for branch feeder and service calculations when it comes for the loading of the feeders and services and branch circuits, okay? So all of that's in there. So that should send you there right away. What I want to hit home with you folks is that you know that when I'm thinking about appliances, and you see it on the screen, Tom is giving the answer to the code section that it's in. And so you're sitting there thinking, okay, how is this demand going to apply? So when we go look at the NEC, and we'll just go look at it this way here. This is easy for us here. We go look at 220.53, and you can see that we're talking appliance loads for the dwelling unit. And immediately you see the 75%, and you see the 4 or more appliances, okay? What's interesting with this one, by the way, is each one of these have their own calculation, by the way, like when you're doing heating versus AC at 220.60. If it's a non-coincident load, you got your own dryer requirements, again, in 220.54. You got the cooking in 220.55. Again, the air conditioning is when we do AC versus heat or comparisons. And then you got the EVSE. You see this is in kind of tanned out. This is not in the 2020. So again, people could potentially add an EVSE as an appliance to try to gain and get to that 4 or more. The chances are in your dwelling, you're probably already going to have 4 or more anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal. And it's not going to be a massive difference. But in the 2023, just be aware. So when people ask me, can I pass an exam using the 2020 versus a 2023? Like if I'm taking a 2023 test, but I've got a 2020 code, then you might miss little things like this, right? Because you might add an EVSE in the appliance count and apply the 75% demand factor to the nameplate, whereas you can't do that in the 2023. So just be aware of that. That's all. It's you know, can you pass a 2023 exam with a 2020 if you're in a pinch? Absolutely. I doubt there'll be enough things that could cause you to fail. But remember, folks, this is something critical because I get this probably every day, is I get a lot of calls from people and helping them prepare for exams or learn the NEC. And what they'll say to me is that I missed it by 1 question or 2 questions. And the answer to that is, no, you didn't. You missed it by a lot more than that. It's just you missed passing by that. And that may be good enough for you, but for me, it's not good enough. That means if I was a 100-question exam and it was 1 point a question and I got a 69, you're saying I missed it by 1, and that's all that matters is I got my license. That's true for what your goal is. You want to get licensed, but reality, you missed it by 31, really, because I'm always shooting for 100%. Okay, so again, shoot for 100. If you fall short, you're still a winner. Okay, so I always give it my all. That's what I tell people. Always give it 100%. If you end up only falling short of that, you're still going to be a winner. Okay, so at the end of the day, this one was one that was dealing in 220.53, and it most certainly was right here. It most certainly was 75%, and down here, it certainly was 4. Okay, all right. So the answer to that one over here, 220.53, was actually the code section. We'll just put it in here so I can't, you won't see it all. So I just put it there. Y'all can't see that because I got it blown up. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. This one right here. Okay. So this one says, all right, feedback. Thanks for all the feedback as well, folks. Remember, this is what it's all part of. Oh, by the way, we will not have a show tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. It will be a replay of some sorts, but I am out of town. I'm in Texas, so just keep that in mind. And I don't have the resources to go live in Texas, so just keep that in mind. And in case you come in the morning and you go, is this live or not? No, it'll be a replay, and it'll say replay in the title, by the way. All right, next, this is what is the lighting load before applying demand factors, okay? Remember, what is the lighting load before applying the demand factors for a dwelling unit with the outside dimensions of 30 by 48 feet on the first floor and 22 by 42 on the second floor, okay? What do y'all think that is? I'm coming to see you in Houston. I'll be a bit of a ways away from Houston, but I will be up in McKinney, Texas. Right. Any of you in McKinney, Texas, want to holler at me, I'll be there. Go out to eat, go out to dinner in the evening. I'm more than happy to go out with you if you're in McKinney. In the day, I'm busy every day, and I will not have a vehicle. I'm going to be Ubering back and forth to the office and all that kind of stuff. So, yep, $18 billion company. I probably could have got a rental, but I don't care to drive. All right, so what is a lighting? Okay, so one of the key questions here, if I see this on an exam, is it says before any demand factors get applied. So that means that's before I apply any reductions. Like, for example, the first 3,000 at 100%, the next 117,000 at 35%. Yeah, I don't apply that because this says before any demand factors. Now, what is different than this on an exam is this one we give it to you. So we're pretty easy with you right here. Okay, we're pretty easy with this statement right here. But I might write this on an exam. I might write this, what is the connected lighting load for a dwelling unit, and give you this. And so connected would be before any demand factors are applied. So I might do the wording a little different and say connected, and you know you're not going to do any calculation. You're not going to apply any demand factors. You're just taking the full value of the connected load based on what it's asking, right? So again, it may depend. Dyslexia. I do it all the time. So it makes you think about it. Now, remember, it's the lighting load. And what do we remember about lighting loads in a dwelling unit? What is the thing that we need to remember? It's 3 VA per square foot is the general lighting. Now, that also covers the general use receptacles, so that's just thrown in there, right? But we're talking general lighting, okay? So, again, we're not really concerned about the receptacles. General use, that's just lumped in there anyway, so we don't worry about that. So, in this case, we have two dimensions. We have a 30 by 48, so we're going to do 30 times 48. And that is 1,440, right? That's your first one. I should have a scratch piece of paper with me. I do not. So let me get a piece. Steal it from the old printer. Oh, by the way, we have other cameras on order. We have been told within the next couple weeks we will have our high-speed internet in here, faster than Starlink. So we will add an additional camera or two, okay, that type of thing. So kind of excited about that. I don't know why, but I am for some reason. All right, so the first one is 1,440. Okay, so that is the 30 by 48 outside dimensions, right? And that's the first floor. And then the second floor is 22 by 42. So we need to add that one, 22 times 42. So that one is 924. All right, so add those two together. That gives me 2,364, right? Now, remember, in dwelling units, whether it is optional method or whether it's standard method, this kind of question wouldn't matter because all it wants to know is, again, what is the total lighting load before any demands? Or if I set it in a fancy way, I could say, what is the connected load, general lighting load? Right? And that means that it's just total connection. It's total beginning value. That's before any demands. It's not after a calculation, that type of thing. Now you say, well, isn't there a calculation? Because you're going to take that 2,364 and you're going to multiply that by 3. Yes, because it's 3 VA per square foot, but it is not applying any demands. And typically the calculated load is after we have applied some type of demand to that. Okay. Now with our question here, it is kind of, again, we'll help you out. We told you that it's before any demands get applied. So we're not going to apply anything in 220.45 or anything like that. We're not going to apply any of that stuff. So I'm going to take that 2,364 times 3 because it's 3 VA per square foot. That's going to give me 7,092 VA. That is the lighting load before I applied any demands to it. So dwelling units, remember, we're in Unit 8. We're looking at competency. It's what you learned in Unit 8. And in Unit 8, you learned that a dwelling is 3 VA per square foot, right? Okay. And we can validate that by going back and looking at the, let's see here. Let's go back and look at dwelling unit loading. All right, and we'll just go. And this is a 2023, by the way, folks. So in case folks that wondered. So here is 220.41. And notice that this has moved from 220.14 in a previous code cycle. Okay, so here's your 3 VA per square foot right there. Okay, and that lets you know that this covers general use receptacles as well, 20 amps or less, already included, and the lighting outlets already included. Okay, so there you go. Now, where do you get the dimensions and everything right here? It all comes from, there you go, right there. 220.5C, the floor area tells you how to measure it from the outside dimensions. Okay, and we were given the question, gave us the dimensions. So 3 VA per square foot. So lighting, minimum unit load, one family dwelling. That's what we're talking about. The minimum unit load shall be not less than 3 VA per square foot. Okay, unit load includes the lighting and receptacle outlets, and no additional load calculations shall be required. Right, that's important to remember that. All right. So that's how we got our generals. So for our lesson, this question right here is 7,092, okay? Right. Because you have this dimension and you have this dimension, you add them together and you multiply that by 3 VA per square foot, and that's to come up with our lighting load. We haven't applied any demands yet, okay? And that's what it said, before any demands are applied. Hopefully you understood that. You get the 3 VA per square foot over at 220.41, and that is our lighting load. We have not applied any demands. All right, next one. Number 3, right here. All right, this says a homeowner. Okay, so you're the electrician. You've already sized everything. You already done the load calculation. And the homeowner says, I want to add 12 general purpose receptacle outlets to the electrical drawing before the house was built. They just want to add 12 more receptacles somewhere, okay? Randomly, wherever they want, okay? And they're just general purpose receptacles. They're going to be on the 15 and 20 amp general purpose, okay? Now, it says, now this one throws people on exams, right? Because they say, all right, now, so that was just the statement, okay? That's just the statement. The homeowner wants to add, comes to you and says, oh, by the way, can I have another receptacle here, another one here, another one here? Oh, I need one more in my bedroom. I need one. Okay. It says, what additional load in VA will they add to the service load calculation? Okay. This one throws a lot of people. And the answer to this is nothing. 0. Because the code doesn't tell us how many receptacles you can have on a branch circuit in a residential application. And no, you don't use 180 VA. That's commercial. Okay. So we already did the 3 VA per square foot, and we saw a minute ago that in 220.41, it says that 3 VA per square foot also includes the general use receptacles. But it doesn't say you can only have 10 or 20 or whatever. It doesn't say that in the code. So in this case, I don't change the load calculation for the customer. I don't have to change anything, right? It's already in there. Same way, for example, people ask me all the time about, well, what about if I have an unfinished basement? Well, an unfinished basement, when you're doing a load calculation, the unfinished basement is adaptable for future use, is it not? Obviously it is. It could be finished off. So you're responsible to make sure that you add that square footage in there, the dimensions of that unfinished basement. So it could be that basement and then your first floor and maybe even a second floor. You have to add that square footage, the outside dimensions of that area. Now, it's unfinished, but that covers in the 3 VA per square foot so that when somebody comes along later and wants to finish off that basement and add general lighting and add general use receptacles, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know the service can handle it? It's already figured in because it's part of that 3 VA per square foot because those are general use receptacles. Now, when does that not play an effect? Well, that doesn't play an effect if you're adding some kind of specific utilization equipment to that basement, right? You're finishing it off and now you're going to be adding something else that's unique that's not part of that general use. Well, then that's when you have to do a load calculation to determine whether or not the existing service can handle the new loads. Not the general use receptacles and the general lighting. That's already been figured in. Hopefully somebody figured that in before, right? This is basically you're looking for anything that would be utilization equipment are not covered in the general use. And then you're going to add that to the load calculation and to see whether or not the existing service can handle it. I'll give you a quick tip for me. There is a method, and we're going to show that. I didn't have enough time this week because I have to be out of town. Maybe next week I'll get into doing existing load calcs. But I'm going to be honest with you. One of the ways that I used to do it when I was going and adding things is I would just go around the dwelling and do a whole new load calc. I really did. Since I have to have all this information anyway to determine what the existing service is versus adding new, even if they were adding an addition, what I would do is I went through and gathered everything like I was wiring this house new. And I did a load calculation, and I used the optional method because I'm going to yield the best result. And I did the optional method, and then I compared that to the service that they already have. And if the service they already have was adequate for what it would be if I was doing a load calculation today, then I was done with it. I don't make it brain surgery. Now, the code has provisions for adding things. Maybe you're maxed out and they're adding stuff. There is provisions in the code to do a data linking, means in other words, you can get information for 12 months from the utility. We'll cover all that stuff in future episodes. And there's a calculation on how to do it depending on whether you're adding heat or AC to the new loads, things like that. We'll look at all that. But I'm going to be honest with you. It was so much easier for me as a contractor, and I was big on calculations. So again, I always would do them, is I would just go around with my notepad and I would just start looking at the appliances, getting the information off of it, and I would start doing it like I was doing a brand new load calculation. Okay? So, yep. Yeah, one way to do it is you can, but you have a bunch of caveats that you have to follow. There's rules for that. You can't just go pull a bill, okay? So in the code, it gives you provisions for a certain period of time, and you have to meet all those criteria. If you can meet all those criteria, but no, I can't personally just go pull somebody's bill. I have to meet the criteria in the NEC to be able to do that, okay? And just so we won't go over it today because I don't have the time for it. But I'll kind of show you here. So I'll just kind of show you what Cray is talking about right here. So this is 220.87. And in future episodes, you're going to be familiar. We're going to talk about this one, which is 220.83, existing dwelling unit, and how you compare these, whether or not you have where additional AC and heat's going to be added or where no additional AC or heat's going to be added. Here's a spoiler alert. It doesn't matter even if you're doing a calculation. If this one makes you think that you don't have to add the AC in it. If no new AC is being installed, that is not correct. You still have to add the AC. That old saying that I tell people all the time, just because you read it, it says, oh, I get to forget about the AC and heat because it says I don't do that for existing loads unless I'm adding new AC or heat. If you still have existing AC and heat, you have to still configure those and add it into the calculation. I have so many people that think that because the code doesn't say something that you get to ignore it. No, if it's a load and it's there, you got to account for it. Okay, so we will explain 220.83 in an upcoming episode. But again, what we're talking about and what Cray is talking about is 220.87. And that's the one where you can take some data. And we'll kind of go look at that one real quick so you can see. So here, so it says the calculation of a feeder or service load for existing installations shall be permitted to use actual maximum demand to determine the existing loads under all the following conditions. Okay, so I have to have what's the maximum demand data available for a 12-month period. Okay, it gives you some exceptions in here. It says then you take the maximum demand at 125% plus any of the new loads. Okay, there you go. So plus the new loads does not exceed the ampacity of the feeder or rating of the service that is already existing. So you take the demand at 125% plus your new loads, and that can't exceed what your existing service is. And then, of course, it says the feeder has overcurrent protection in accordance with 240.4, and the service has overload protection in accordance with 230.90. Okay, so there is some allowances here, but no, it's not a matter of just go pulling the information from your previous year's sheet and say, oh, that's fine. You still have a process that you have to follow, that type of thing, okay? Okay. Let's see. So let's see here. What else do we gotta look at? Let's try to see if there's anything else. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's go back to the question. Sometimes I get too deep in these things. All right. So in this case right here, there is absolutely nothing that gets added to this calculation just because the homeowner wants some additional receptacles. Okay. That type of thing. Right. Yeah. David makes a point in kilowatt, and I would hopefully that's obvious to people, but obviously kilowatt hours doesn't do us any good. It's the demand over the period. Okay, so we're looking at a maximum demand over a period of 1 year. And again, there's some exceptions to that where you can bring in equipment in a reduced time period and things like that. There is an exception if you can't get access to this demand data. But I don't think that it would be reliable enough for me to pull the customer's bills for a year, especially when in a lot of places they're estimated and things like that. So, but maybe it might work for your jurisdiction. David might allow it in his jurisdiction, that type of thing. All right, let's go on to the next question here. Number 4. All right, in each dwelling unit, okay, it says the feeder shall be calculated at blank volt amperes for each 2-wire small appliance branch circuit required by 210.11c1. Now, this one right here, I hope is a no-brainer for everyone, right? Because you've heard me talk about it all the time. Whether it is a main breaker outside, it's emergency disconnect as well. It has a feeder that's feeding a panel inside that sees the entire load of the dwelling or anything like that. Or if it is a feeder that's going to an individual dwelling unit. Inside the individual dwelling unit, y'all know that you have to have a minimum of how many small appliance branch circuits? You have to have a minimum of 2, right? Minimum of 2. And each one of those has a requirement to what? Each one of those has a requirement to have a certain specific type of VA. Now, you know that you're not going to get that by going to 210.11c1, right? Because that's just going to tell you that you have to have the minimum of 2. That's all that's going to tell you. So to find the VA value for that, you're going to have to go to 220. And we're in 220, all right? And so in 220, if we just go look at 220 here, I'll just take you here. We're in 220. Let's go back. And here you see 220.52. That's your small appliance and laundry dwelling unit values. Okay, Jonathan's absolutely correct. There you go. So there's your small appliance and laundry loads. There you go. So small appliance, you see it's 1,500 for each. Okay. And down here, here's the laundry. There you go. Yep, David says it's easy for dwelling. Yeah, probably easier for dwelling than it would be, for example, other applications. So in the dwelling, if you can get that value and you feel comfortable with it, take the max demand over the 12-month period, do it at 125%, and then add any additional loads that you want to add to it, and then see if your service is adequate at that point. For me, again, I didn't want to get into the customer and have them try to pull up their data, and back in the past, it was problematic. The customers weren't all easy to work with, and I don't have data to this, or I can't get it, or whatever, or they didn't want to wait. So for me, I just did a brand new calculation of the entire dwelling. It was just, for me, it was easier because I can do calculations like that quickly. I just went through and got a list of all appliances, everything, that type of thing. That was just the way I did it. And outside dimensions, I just simply would take my measurements, that type of thing. And it's just how I approached it. All right. But again, we'll talk about that in future episodes. We'll look at the 2 different ways to do this application. All right. So what's the next? So again, this one, this one is 1,500. Oops, you can't see it. All right. We know this one. We know that's 1,500 for each. Now, by the way, I should say this. If you're doing a load calculation and you've got a dwelling, and I used to do very large dwellings, multi-million dollar, over 10,000 plus square foot homes, only because that's where we found our niche, because we couldn't make money on the little tract homes, the little spec houses. We just couldn't make enough money. And we didn't have enough of the business where we could just make a living on doing hundreds of those. So it was better for us to really to go after the specialized stuff and do the bigger stuff, because usually they would be adding swimming pools, or they'd be adding 4 and 5 and 6 car garages or other accessory building. So again, they would feed us in, we would always target those type of things. So that's the kind of builders that we look for, that type of thing. All right. And that's, you can say that's a niche, if you will, just high-end homes, but it keeps you there a long time. Now, I'm a big believer in finality. I like to get things done. So that's why I wasn't a big fan of commercial work, because I don't like to sit on projects for freaking months and months and months and months. But sometimes these multi-million-dollar homes would take months in the process, always adding something, that type of thing. All right, let's go to the next question right here. All right, what is the minimum calculated, what is the minimum calculated service load? Okay, so now it's just wanting the calculated service load here for 2 3.5 kW wall-mounted ovens. And so there's 2 of these, 3.5 kW wall-mounted ovens. Get your calculators out, guys. And 1 5 kW counter-mounted cooking unit, okay? All right, so now this is for a service calc. It's not asking about a branch service. Branch service. It's not asking about a branch circuit. This is for a service calculation, okay? Now, it says all the appliances are applied from a single branch circuit and are located in the same room of a one-family dwelling. Okay, so it's 2 3.5s and 1 5, okay? And it does tell us that it is still for the service, even though it is supplied by the branch circuit, that type of thing. Somebody's texting me over here. I have no idea why they're doing that. I don't know why that. Okay, so what's important here? What's important is that you're going to ignore branch circuit rules. Okay, this is a service calculation. Okay, service calculation. All right, so now let's go over to the code real quick. Remember, 2 3.5s and 1 5. All right, so I'm going to take us here, and we're going to go to 220.55. All right, and we're doing standard method because nothing said otherwise. Okay, didn't say anything about doing anything other than that. Let's see where we're at here. All right. Okay, so we're doing a service load calculation. So let's look down here and let's see here under, where are we at here? Let me find my thing here. Here we go. All right, so if they were 3 appliances, looking at column C, for example, if they were 3 appliances, bear with me, folks, because I got to move this stuff over. Then we would be at just 14 kW, all right? And you're thinking, all right, well, I'd be 14 kW. Well, that would be column C, right? Y'all with me? Trying to see what this person is sending me a note. I have no idea what I have no idea what they're sending me. What? Okay. Anyway, all right. So that's what we got there. All right. So I'm gonna blow this up real quick because it's easy. It might be easier to see. All right. So it's not less than 3.5. Okay. So the A is for less than 3.5. All right. So it looks like we're over. Let's go over here. So we're over in B. All right. So we're 3.5 through 8 3/4. Okay. So we can use 14 if we wanted, right? We could use 14 if we wanted, but all of these appliances, by the way, fall. And let's go down and look at note 3. Here's note 3. It says over 1 3/4 through 8 3/4 in lieu of the method in column C. Okay, so in lieu of the method in column C, it says that you can add the nameplate ratings of the household cooking appliances rated more than 1 3/4, but not more than 8 3/4. Remember, all of these fall within that realm, right? We had 2 3.5s, right? And we have 1 5. Okay, so they all fall under column B. So remember it said in lieu of column C? So you always go to look at column C first. Remember, we're doing services here, not a branch circuit. We're looking at services. Okay. So, and it says that, then it says, okay, so ours do fall within this parameter. And it says, and multiplying the sum in summation rule means you add them all up. Demand factors multiplied by the demand factor supplied in column A or column B for a given number of appliances shall be permitted. So we have the permission here. Remember, we're doing a load count. We had the permission to do summation. That means add the 3.5, 3.5, and add the 5. Add them all up, right? And then simply go to the column that they fall in. In this case, they fall all under column B. So I get to go to the 3 appliances under column B, and that's where I get the multiplier. Okay, so what is our multiplier? Well, let's see if we can get back over here under column B. Here's column B right here, and here's the third column. 1, 2, 3, and it's 55. Now remember, this is percentages, whereas column C is actual demand. Okay, so 14 kW was a demand. Can we use 14 kW? Absolutely you can. But when it comes here, it said in note 3, and how do we use note 3? It says right here, column C is to be used in all cases except as otherwise permitted in note 3. Well, how do we get to use note 3? Because the appliances are between 1 3/4 and 8 3/4. That firmly puts us in the ability to use note 3. Then what does it say? Well, if you got multiple appliances, tell you what, just add them up and then apply the demand factor within the column that they fall into. Now, what if they fell in different columns? Okay, so what if they weren't 3.5? What if they were 3? Then that would be the 2 of them fall under column A. So you do that one separately. Really? I do not connect them. So I do that separately and then set that number aside. Okay, so if that was the case, it would be right here. See, 2 of them would be 75. Okay, that would be the percentage. All right, and then I set that aside. And then the other one was 5. That falls in here. So that one would be separate. Okay, so that would be 1 appliance, and that would be at 80. And then what I do, I add them together. Okay, that type of scenario. But since all of ours fall under column B, we're just adding them all up. 3.5, 3.5, and the 5, right? So we add all those totals up, and that should give you 12 kW, right? So let's see. Let's do the math. Let's make sure. 3.5 plus 3.5 plus 5. Actually, yep, 12 kW. All right, so now I can take that 12 kW and I multiply it by the multiplier, which is 55%. So that take 12 times and 0.55, and that gives me 6.6 kW or 6,600. So you could do 12,000 times 55%, or you could keep it at 12 times 0.55, which is going to end up giving you 6.6. So it's 6.6 is what your kW, 6,600 is the value that we're going to use. Okay, so what is our end value? The answer is D. Oops, sorry. Freak you back to the lesson here. So our answer in this case is D. There you go. Now, in the real world, could you use the 14? Sure. Yeah. But remember, we're not doing a branch circuit. Even though it gave us, this is where you got to be careful on a question. This might be talking about a branch circuit, right? But the question wasn't asking about a branch circuit. It wanted to know what was the minimum calculated, means after you applied some type of demand. What's the minimum calculated service load for 2, 3.5, and 1, 5 counter-mounted cooking unit? That was the question. All of this stuff, all this extra stuff, it doesn't matter because we're not talking about a branch circuit, okay? We're talking about a load calculation. Okay? If we were talking about a branch circuit, we would be moving down into the lower notes like note 4, 5, 6, those type of things. But that's not what it asked, okay? We're using note 3. Make sense? Okay. Let's see here. Well, you'd use note 6, but remember we said we were not talking about anything to do with the branch circuit. Nothing about a branch circuit. Nothing was, it wasn't had nothing to do with the branch circuit. Remember? That's what we said. You got to pay attention. Okay? The question was asking about a service calculation, The branch circuit information was just there to throw you to say, oh, this is how it's been run with a branch circuit. But who cares? We're doing a load calculation, not trying to size the branch circuit to those appliances. Get what I'm saying? Very careful. Got to read the question. Be very careful with the question. Let's see here. The next one is number 6. It says a 4.5 kVA. So y'all know K being kilo. That is 4,500 VA. Okay. So a 4,500 VA, 240 volt electric clothes dryer contributes blank amperes to the neutral load when calculating the service by the standard method. Okay. All right. So this one right here, you're saying, okay, what does it add? Okay. And let's see. What do we got here? Oh, I don't know what that is. Okay. So what's important about this question? Well, the first thing people are going to start doing is doing 4,500 divided by 240. That's the first thing people immediately go to their calculator and do that. But what did we say about clothes dryers under the standard method? Do we use the 4,500? Or do we go to 220.54 and see what it says? What does it say for the standard method now? Not the optional method, the standard method. What does it say? So let's go to 220.54. Right here in the first line, it says, the load for a household electric clothes dryer in a dwelling unit shall be either 5,000, so that's your baseline, right? 5,000, or the nameplate, whichever is larger for each dryer served. Be careful on the question on an exam, because at the end of the day, you're like, okay, if the exam gave me 55, then I'm going to use 55. If the question gives me 44, then I'm going to use 5, because that's the minimum that we use with 5. Now, once I know that, then I'm going to say, look, it's only asking me for the neutral contribution, okay? Not any fictitious number, not any rounded number. It wants the actual neutral contribution for the service. Remember, dryers are a 4-wire setup, okay? They have that neutral. Remember when we do the load calculation, what do we take the neutral at? And 220.61b says we have an additional reduction that we can do it at 70%. Remember that? Many people forget those things. So this question, when I tell you many times when I'm preparing students, I say, look, it's not about being able to do the whole calculation, right? And we don't round neutrals, especially when it asks us for the actual contribution. Because if you round it, you're creating some fictional contribution, okay? It's not like rounding for conductor sizing and service sizing. This is one of those questions where it just wants to know what is the actual contribution of that neutral, okay? The actual contribution, not any fictitious contribution, okay? So there is no rounding involved in a question like this. It's the actual contribution, okay? That type of thing. So if we think about this one and we look at it, and Tom was exactly right. Standard method is the key here. You have to know that it gave me 45, and we're going to use 5. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to take 5,000, and I'm going to divide that by 240, and that gives me 20.83. Okay, y'all see that? 20.83, right? Now, once I have that, I'm just simply going to take those amps, not going to round it. I'm taking those amps, 20.83, whatever it is, at that point, and what am I going to do with it? Everybody know? I'm going to multiply that by 0.70. And that gives me 14.58. So the answer is, what is the contribution from the neutral? It is 14.58. It is not 15. It is 14.58. You do not round it. Doesn't matter. We're not doing, we're simply taking what the question asks us. Okay, now if you want to round it to 15, it's not going to hurt you. It's not the end of the world. It's going to be fine. But the reality is, the question wanted to know the contribution. How can 15 be the contribution? 15 is a fictitious number based on math. The actual contribution as it sits from that dryer is exactly 14.58. Okay. And that's what the question's asking. So it's asked here, it says, what is the contribution? It contributes what in amps? Well, it contributes 14.58. Does it contribute 15? No. 14.58. So that is one of those little questions where you have to be careful. Now, a lot of times I will take 15 because in the scheme of life, it doesn't really matter. But if you're on one of those exams or you're somebody that's a stickler and it says, look, it literally wanted to know what the contribution was, then the real answer can only be 14.58. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so not a trick question. It's just kind of one of those, what is it? What is the contribution? Now, we do follow the 0.5 for rounding for conductor sizes. We do it for services and things like that. Not what the question asks. So very careful. It's kind of one of those ones that are just testing you kind of questions. All right, number 7, last one we'll do today. It says a one-family dwelling contains the following appliances. Okay. No, I didn't get you, Dave. I think in the real world, we probably would just take 15. I mean, me and you are probably realists. We're like, screw it. But this is one of those ones that if somebody's trying to get somebody, that they would write it this way, okay? Not the kind of questions I like, by the way, because and sometimes I don't even mark it wrong if people give me 15. It's one of those questions that's really just trying to check you and see it's like, well, I'm asking you about neutral loads. So we're not sizing conductors. We're not sizing ungrounded conductors. We're not doing anything where we round. We're just asking you what's the contribution? That's it. So I think that's what gets us all the time. All right, so now sizing conductors and stuff, we are going to round that for the ungrounded conductors. If we had 14.58 for a calculation for sizing overcurrent and conductors, you most certainly we're going to round that up, that type of thing. You got, remember? Yep. All right, so let's look here. So, okay, what do we got? One family dwelling. We got 1 kVA 115-volt dishwasher. Okay. Seems like a small-ass dishwasher to me, but I guess that may be normal. So we're going to have 1 kVA, so I'm going to put 1,000 down for that. Okay, kVA. We have a 1/4 horsepower 115-volt in-sink waste disposer. So that's a 1/4 horsepower, so we're going to have to go look something up here. Y'all know where you're going to go to look that up? Let's hear it in the comments. Where are you going to go to look it up? All right, next is we have a 1/3 horsepower trash compactor. Okay, so this is a 1/3 horsepower. Okay, so we have a 1/4 horsepower in-sink waste disposer at 115. Okay, and we have a 1/3 horsepower in-sink waste disposer trash compactor. No, waste disposer is 1/3 horsepower. A trash compactor is 1/3 horsepower. Do they even make trash compactors anymore? I guess they do. I guess they still make trash compactors. Anyway, so what we got to do, all right, now it says using the standard method. Okay, so the difference in the optional method is we do what? We just take the nameplate of everything, right? And then we're going to ultimately do the application first 10,000 at 100 and the remainder at 40, but we're not doing the optional. It made it very clear that we're doing the standard method. Okay, so what is the calculated service load? So this is implying that we got to do some calculation. Okay, so this implies we're going to have a demand factor, possibly. May or may not apply. Let's see what we got. In VA for these appliances, it says none of the motors will be the largest motor in the dwelling. Okay, so all of that's extra information, right? So, all that extra information don't mean squat to us. So this is all there to throw you, by the way. This kind of stuff is there to throw you, okay? All right, so first thing I want to do real quick. How many appliances do we have? Okay, if it's asking me for the appliances contribution, and we talked about appliances earlier. We looked at 220.53, did we not? And earlier, and we said, okay, well, I get to apply demands to this if I have how many? 4 or more. How many do we have? I have 1, 2, 3. So the first thing we're going to notice, it don't mean squat. I don't even have to go to look at 220.53 because I know I don't have 4 or more. So I'm going to have to take them at 100%. when it comes to my load calculation. I just don't get any demands because I don't have 4 or more. So what do you do? Well, you take the nameplate or you take the values, okay? So in this plate, we have a nameplate of 1 kW, so that's 1,000. We write that down. But now we have to go search for these other ones, right? So we're going to go to the NEC, and I'm going to go down to 430, and you folks got it right. These are single phase. So we're going to go down to 430. We're going to go to 248. 430, if I can find it, right here. And let's get down into here. Bear with me as I scroll down to where I need to be. All right, and let's see here. It never lets you get all the way in link, so you just got to kind of go right here. Then we can go over. Okay, so this one is full load. That's DC, so 247 is DC. 248, there's their single phase right there. And we're already here, so we'll just stick here. So we're at 115 volts. That's what it said. Okay, by the way, this is a good opportunity for me to point this out. Even if it had said those motors were 120 volt, it wouldn't matter. Even though this says 115, you're still going to use this same column. And people say, how do I know that, Paul? Well, because of the notes right here. See, it says the currents listed shall be permitted voltage ranges from 110 to 120 and 220 to 240. So again, the 220 is still going to use the 115. Okay, and it reminds you again down here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so in our case, we had 1/4 horsepower. So we're going to go down here, right here, and it's 5.8. So I'm going to write that down. 5.8 amps. Okay, this is your FLC. We're not taking the nameplate. We're taking it from the FLC. All right, and then the other one was 1/3. Here's 1/3, and that is 7.2. So I'm going to write that one down, 7.2. All right, okay. So now that's our values. Let's go back. Let's get back to the lesson. All right, so we have those. So now what do we have to do? Y'all know Ohm's law. We have to convert these things. We need to find out what the VA is, right? So now that we know the amps, and we're going to use the values in voltage that are given to us always in the question. This is huge. A lot of people say, well, Paul, in real life, we're using 120 for everything. No, if the code question says 115, doesn't matter what you think out in the real world, folks. You use what they give you, okay? So they gave it and told us that it's 115. So I'm going to be using 115, okay? Don't overcomplicate life. So I'm going to take the 5.8 times 115, and that gives me 667. So that is the 1/4 horsepower's VA is 667. Now I'm going to do the trash compactor, which was 7.2 amps. So I'm going to take 7.2 times 115. That is 828. I'm going to write that down. All right. So y'all have done this. Same thing right there. That's all I'm doing. Okay. And now I'm going to add them all up. 1,000. That was the dishwasher. They gave us that already. Plus 667 plus 828. Total is 2495. There is no demands to be had here. We don't have any demands we can apply, right? So, since no demands can be applied, what do we add as far as the appliances load here? It's going to be 2,495, and that is the answer to this question, right? Doesn't matter. It says none of these motors are the largest motor. Wouldn't matter anyway. That's handled elsewhere in the code, okay? We handle that in 220.50, all right, for the largest motor. We don't have to worry about that, okay? So, done. Easy peasy. So what's the appliance contribution here? $24.95, right? We didn't get to apply any demands, okay? So just because this says right here, let's see here. Where is it says? Using the standard method, what is the calculated service load? It's still going to be $24.95. We weren't able to apply any demands to this, okay? All right, folks, hopefully you got something out of these lessons today. Just kind of touching on them. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let me go over, see if we can get over to the giveaways. What's up, Van Man? What's up, Ramon? Glad to have you here.
Woo, 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 woo. Big dog.
All right, so let's spin the wheel and do some giveaways here. I'll get you on the list. The drawing is September 30th. Next week, we will have the drawing live. We'll let you know. Jeff's already got them all already cut out and ready to go in the hat. So we're ready to do the drawing from the second quarter. And we'll have your email all set up that you'll go to send in your information if you get selected. Okay? Sorry, let's go on and... let's go on and see who we can get some winners today. Add to the list. By the way, for those that are interested, we do have the coasters that are added to the wheel, and you can get your own coaster over on our website. There's Masters, there's Journeyman, and then there's the Electrician's Rule, one with the little electrician on it, whatever, that type of thing. So they are available over on our website. So check that out. All right, Edgar, you're in the drawing for the voltage drop card. All right, so Edgar, congratulations. So you're in the drawing for the card. Congratulations. Hopefully you win that. All right. Let's see. What do we got here? David. You already have the tube, so we'll spin again for David. David, you seem to win everything you already have. Maybe you'll get another drawing for a coaster. Maybe you'll get on the list again for a coaster. Let's see. Trade Hog. I don't know if you have Trade Hog, so we'll put you down for Trade Hog drawing. It worked great to look up code things as a plans examiner as well. So, all right, let's spin the wheel. Rob. A VD card drawing. Okay, congratulations. All right, let's do another one here. So you're in the drawing, David, for the Trade Hog. Good luck to you. A lot of people are getting into Trade Hog, so... Rob Thompson, you may already have Fast Tracks Tube. I don't know. But if you do not, go over to fasttrackstube.com and sign up for a free subscription. Okay? And then I don't control the wheel, Santana. It's just automatic. It does its own thing. Right? And you can get your free subscription to Fast Tracks Tube. And then let us know. We will upgrade you to annual subscription. All right. Santana wants to win. I want you to win too, Santana. You're in the drawing for the 2023 grounding and bonding course. Okay. Good deal. All right, let's do one more spin. One more. I'm feeling giveaway-ish. I got to fly out to Texas, so in case I don't make it back, I want to make sure I give away something. Now, you'll never get it, and Jeff will take care of it. Hopefully keep it going. Something happens to me. Oh, man, I'm sorry. Charles Bailey. What's up, Charles? You get your NFC promo card. Very little of those left, folks. Very, very few of the NFC promo cards that are left that'll have NFC built into it, okay? All right. All right. There we go. Okay, folks. Hopefully you got something out of today's episode. Again, we looked at some code questions. All of these are found in our Fast Tracks program. If you're on the fence about getting a good exam prep program, I don't know of any other program that's like ours. We have the Fast Tracks Interact where you can ask questions directly into the program. Be very specific in your question. Don't ask me to go read something in the course to answer a question. Copy and paste exactly what you want me to answer in there. Okay, be very descriptive because I don't want to keep jumping back and forth into the program. Ask me the question you have. Cut and paste it. Screenshot it. Whatever you want. But that's all within our Fast Tracks Interact feature. And that way I can answer your questions for you in the program, and you can just log back in and go there and check and see if when I answer your question, things like that. The Fast Tracks Interact is available in our 2020 and our 2023 programs. So it shouldn't have a problem for you getting access to that. If it's down at the bottom right, you'll see that little blue thing. You're like, what the heck is that thing? If you're on a device, it does help to turn it to the side and then close the little list of people on the left. Just hit the close so that you get full screen, and then you can type your question, and then you can turn it back to vertical view, and it'll just be the questions, that type of thing. So you got to manipulate a little bit. On a desktop, you don't need to do any of that type of stuff. On a tablet, you don't need to do any of that type of stuff. But you might need to maneuver it a little bit on a mobile phone just because of the real estate, that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? All right. All right, everybody. I appreciate you. You have no idea how much we appreciate you. Everybody that purchases stuff from us and from our website and helps us keep going. We appreciate you. You have no idea. Thanks again, and I will catch you next week. For the remainder of this week, replays. It'll say replay in the title, okay? But next week, we'll start off the beginning of the week, and we'll get into some more good stuff, okay? Again, if you have topics you want me to talk about, please send them to us at paulabernathy.com, not at paulabernathy.com. Go to the website, paulabernathy.com, and submit it there. That way you can fill in the information and send us anything. I won't get anything if you send it at paulabernathy.com. It doesn't come to me because we don't have any email set up for that. You have to go to the website, paulabernathy.com, and use our online form. We did that on purpose. We don't want a bunch of emails coming in, paulabernathy.com. We never even have an email account for that. Just go to the website, paulabernathy.com. All right? All right, folks. God bless. Have a great week. Stay positive. Stay motivated. Say a little prayer for the folks down in Texas. And I also believe there's flooding in North Carolina, and they've lost some lives there too. Life is precious. Doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. Doesn't matter. Again, we're only on this rock one time. Your heart has to go out for people that lose their life and they don't yet get a chance to live it. That's sad. But we do know that they're in the hands of God, and that's if you have to believe in something, that is something to believe in. Okay. All right. There is something after this. Right. All right. Take care, everybody. God bless. And we'll catch you next time on Coffee Hour.